Alright, what's going on? We're working on the 1776, or, well, this is a 2050, I think, 56, 78 by 94 motor. And I put a cylinder on there, figured out the deck height that I wanted to have. I ordered the cylinder spacers. I had a little communication issue with, I think my wife wrote the number down wrong, to tell you the truth, is what happened. But it happens, you know. I should have ordered them myself. But I haven't ordered any parts for this motor. The customer's been taking care of all that. So I haven't established a contact at A&A yet, somebody that I can call and talk to when they order parts. Because this is sort of what happens when you order parts and you don't know exactly what you need, you know. But I've been just playing along because this guy's in no hurry. He likes to order his stuff, and I don't have any problem with that. So I don't get to work on it every day, so it's not a real issue. Did get the crank in there, got the crank to turn nice, everything clears. I put the cam in there and it clears without any clearancing at all. It's just a 78 stroke crank. I think the reason it was so tight in this case is because, like we talked about, it's not a performance aluminum case. It was a standard replacement case, and it might have had a little extra girth there in the base of the cylinders. That's where I had the most clearancing issues, with the back of the rod coming into contact with the block. So we got all that taken care of. Our cam works. We're going to go with the FK87. Have to cut the base of the lifters. His lifters are in really good shape. They're old Wiseman, so we're going to go ahead and put those back in. They're all broke in. It had single springs on the last motor, so that's about as easy as you can be on the cam break-in, you know, with single springs. Most people start off with the doubles, and it's just murder on the cam. So this cam's been broken properly, and more than likely it'll live the rest of its life happy. So we're going to CC the cylinder head. We have 90 thousandths deck height, we got a 78 crank, and we have a 94 cylinder. So I'm going to do a little giveaway or something. I don't know, give something away, Volkswagen part. But some of you guys like to do math, so I'll let you guys figure the compression ratio out, and whoever comes up with the correct compression ratio will win a prize. Prize is undetermined, but we'll try to make it a decent prize. So anyway, let's move the camera over here to the cylinder head, show you the setup we have. And this is pretty basic. You can get this at any Volkswagen store pretty much. I had to replace the syringe because the syringes seem to be not that good that come in the kit. Hang on a minute. There we go. Sorry about the shaky cam. But like I was saying, sometimes the syringes that come in the kit aren't that good, and the rubber goes bad, even though we're just using water here, and it gets real hard and you can't push it through. So I'm going to grab a little grease here behind me, show you the process here. It's pretty simple. I'm sure there's a couple other guys that have done videos on this. Pretty sure Matt has done this. He did the cylinder heads that I ported for him. He made the combustion chambers a little bigger, and he has a video of how to do this also. All the Volkswagen guys have done this, I think, but it's required. You know, if you're going to build the motor and you want to know your compression ratio, you're going to have to CC the head. Our trusted manufacturers advertise CC, which isn't always a good idea. Now I will tell you that if you have a cylinder head that's never been machined, this head has been cut and they cut the ledge out of it. Some of the cylinder heads will have a ledge in the bottom of it. I don't happen to have one of those heads handy right now, but if you have the ledge here and you give it some respectable deck height, you're almost not going to get in trouble with the compression ratio. Haven't done the math yet, but from when I was a kid and couldn't afford machine work, of course I always wanted my car to go faster and faster, and usually the only way to do that to a certain extent is to add compression. And I was always trying to raise compression on my motor. you know, as much as I could without machining the head. And I got really greedy with the deck height. I was running a Volkswagen rod, so a Volkswagen rod is a superior piece to a lot of the H-beam rods that are on the market. The only difference between a H-beam rod and a Volkswagen rod is the clearance. You know, the H-beam rod is much smaller and is easier to fit into the assembly if you're going to go with a stroker. Now you can go with the other rod I'll show you here in a minute, and I'm sure that they would work just fine. This is 60 cc's. I think the original syringe that I had with my kit might have been a little larger, but I had a hard time finding a syringe in my town. I think people are killing themselves with these. I don't know what they're filling them with, but we put our spark plug in here. We have our plate seated down in the bore. We put a little grease in there, and now we're just going to fill this up with water. This is also a good time to, when you fill this up with water, take a peek into your exhaust port and your intake port and make sure you don't have any water running out of it. It'll give you an idea if you have a good seal or not. I had these plates made that I have under the cylinder head, and they don't keep the head very level. Usually have to work the air out. And you'll be able to see the bubble. It'll want to go everywhere but the hole. The hole seems to break the tension of the water up, and there we go. Come on. There's one crazy bubble. Normally they're not that wild, but I'm doing a video, so of course. I don't know if you can see the bubble I'm chasing. It's right here. It's probably not much, but I mean, you might as well get the bubble out if you're going to go through the process, you know. So I'll pull it over here with this pick. Oh my. There we go. Wow. That was something else. Alright, so we got all the air out of it. I'm going to set this back up on the stands now. Alright, so we had 60 in here. They are right at 60, and they're advertised at I think 56. So probably depends on the bore size, you know. But anyway, so we have 60 cc's in our combustion chambers. We have 90 thousandths deck height, because that's the least amount of deck height that I would give an H-beam rod that wasn't made from you know, I just think that I don't think these rods are as strong as people think they are, you know. They are copies. We have to remember that. They're the Chinese copy of a Corella H-beam, which is 4 times the price. Maybe 6, I don't know. If you want a really good rod that's not going to fail, Potter Machine, they have one of the best I-beam rods you can buy. $800. You spend it one time and you're finished. These are some rods that Matt gave me. These rods are clearance on the back side for the stroker, and they have a 3/8 bolt, which I believe these rods are probably stronger than the ones that I've put in this motor because of the 5/16 bolt. We were only able to torque them to 29 foot-pounds, and that gave us 6,000 stretch on the bolt. So you don't want to overstretch the bolt, because then it doesn't have any clamping. It'll fail. The manufacturer usually has the recommended stretch. I polished the beams on these. I've been working on them a little bit. Probably put them in a project and try them. I don't know. And these are really unnecessary unless you're going to go with a stroker crank. A Volkswagen rod is really strong. People don't give it the credit. They're good for at least 200 horsepower, maybe more if you want to change the bearing often. But yeah, so we got 60 in this combustion chamber. We have 90 thousandths deck height. We have a 78 crank, and we got a 94 bore. You guys want to figure the compression ratio out? Leave it in the comments, and we'll do a drawing for some sort of prize. Whoever participates, we'll put you guys in a hat, and we'll draw for the prize. That eliminates, who answered it first or whatever. It's just who wants to be involved in it. And if you got more than one guy that's right that way, we'll just pick you out of the hat. I'm sure you guys will go use the CB Performance Engine Calculator. It's a very good source if you want to do any kind of engine math for a Volkswagen. A&A also has a engine calculator. Scat, I think maybe they might have one. Definitely A&A and CB Performance. They definitely have engine calculators where you can punch in these numbers and get the answers. So that's what's going on with this. We're getting ready to take this back apart, and we're going to pull all the rods back off and clean everything. Super clean. Got to finish deburring the inside of the case. This case had a lot of porosity. It was really, the aluminum was like open. It was like a styrofoam ice chest inside. So I ended up going ahead and cutting all the loose stuff off and deburring the inside of the case so that wouldn't get in our oil. So that's what's going on with that. I do need to go through some of the sheet metal for this motor. I haven't really done that. I was not very diligent when this order came in. So I'll show you some of the stuff that you can get at A&A. They have pretty much everything, I do believe. So let's take a look and see if everything's here. This is going to be the sheet metal box. We got all new sheet metal for this motor. A cylinder cover there. Another cylinder cover. Got the breastplate. Got the deflectors. This motor came in with no deflectors on it, and this guy had 3 motors that somebody had built for him, and they didn't like putting the deflectors in. Every motor, the piston cylinders were wiped out. You got to put those deflectors on there if you want the cylinder to cool properly. The bus deflectors are a little nicer, front pan or rear pan, whichever you call it. Front pan or rear pan. Doghouse oil cooler chute. Generator 10 or alternator. Fan housing. Yeah, the oil cooler cover. Missing, I think we got all that stuff. That's pretty complete. I have another box out in the garage there. Went ahead and got everything from this motor from them. Because they got a lot of stuff there. So, this got an exhaust system from them. Flanges look pretty nice. Whoop. Got the exhaust system from them too. The flanges look pretty thick. Better than the local exhaust. Got a muffler. Put the other J-pipe. The Sidewinder exhaust. I'm thinking that's the muffler strap. And muffler hardware. Another empty box. The other box over there is the piston cylinders. We bought the engine kit from them, which was I think right at like $900. Came with the H-beam rods, came with the 78 forged crank, and came with a real sweet flywheel that's down there, forged flywheel. Motor came in with a cast flywheel. I try not to use those. Some people like them. I've seen them break, and I've seen them break the center out and, you know, still be bolted to the back of the crankshaft. When the flywheel comes loose in a bell housing, it can cause a serious issue, you know, if it sets that magnesium on fire. So it really, I think Volkswagen was looking ahead when they went with the forged flywheel. They did it for a reason. Usually on any other manufacturer, you need to upgrade to a forged flywheel, and Volkswagen comes with one, just like the crankshaft. And the rods are very strong from the factory also. So anyway, that's where we're at on this one. Hopefully I'll get some barrel spacers tomorrow or the next day. Had to reorder those. Had a little issue, translation problem. I didn't get the numbers right when I translated it to whoever ordered the parts, and we got 9 thousandths instead of 90 thousandths. And so that's where we're at. I haven't really done any corresponding with A&A on this motor. The customer's done all of it himself. So sometimes it takes a little longer when you do it that way, but I think the customer needs to have a rapport with where he buys the parts just as much as the guy that's putting it together. So it's his hard-earned money that bought it. So that's what's going on with this. Somebody wanted to hear the bus run. I built the motor in the bus. Take you over there. Try not to shake you to death. Do the shot. I got the bus in here. I'm going to work on this today. I went and got a tag for it. That's some insurance. I need to put it all back together and change the wheels and tires on this side. I think it needs a brake job. Needs a clutch adjustment. Got to do the 2 top bolts, and I think it needs 1 engine mount. It's just barely put in there. It does run though, so we'll fire it up for you guys. I had a more than one comment on this bus. Little background on the bus motor here. I worked for Scooter over at R&S back in the 80s, back in the great 80s. But this was a customer that came in, bought this motor, and it was a long block. We used to sell long blocks, basically like they sell factory long blocks now. We used to build those and we'd put them on the shelves, and people would come in and want a motor, and we'd have a complete brand new Volkswagen long block, new case, new heads, new everything. Everything, I think, but the crankshaft was new at the time, back in the day. We would have the crankshaft turn and use the factory crankshaft, and then we'd also resize the rods and use those. Since then, the machine work has got really expensive to have a rod resized. Back then it was $10 a rod. So it's quite common to reuse the rods. That's what made aftermarket rods so popular now, because a lot of times machine shops charge a lot of money and they don't have the ability to even do the job right to begin with. You guys in California don't really have that issue, but it gets sort of hard out here on the East Coast to get any kind of quality Volkswagen machine work done. That's why most of the people ship the stuff out there, and a lot of people think that's crazy, but when you ship it to somewhere like Remco, or you know, somewhere that's well known in the Volkswagen industry, they don't call with questions. You know, they do it and they send it back and it's right. So anyway, I digress. Back to the story. This motor was a factory or a long block off the shelf down at Scooters. Guy came in, bought the motor. I think back then it was about 1,600 bucks. You get a brand new motor, all your sheet metal put on the motor, and you go out the door. This motor originally had a one barrel carburetor on it. That's why it's the single relief case. If it would have been a performance motor, it would have had a dual relief case for sure back in the day. But anywho, the guy drove it, and he drove it right off the interstate after he had it for about a week, and unfortunately he didn't make it through the accident. And I bought it through a towing company at an auction for the motor, of course. Took it home, pulled the motor out, junked the car. I think I saved the wheels off of it, and that was in like 1989, 88. But I've had this motor that long. It was in the blue car. I traded the blue car off. Teenager drove it for a while. He had it for years, tried to blow it up, beat it up, whatever, hold it wide open. And I used to do the same thing to it. My son drove it. I think we put it in the blue car and it had a wrist pin knock. I remember making the video, and we pulled it apart right around the first YouTube party we had. And Canadian Catalyst, Andy was here, and Greg Porter. And we freshened this motor up, put new piston cylinders on it, set of rods, a crank, and put it all back together. And it was in the blue car for a while. And I put it in the bus shortly after. It's got a bus or a bug to bus conversion thing on the oil pump, which I really don't recommend. I won't even do it for a customer. It's like this on mine because, if it fails, it's my own fault. But I had really good luck with it. I think we put about it failed right at about 60,000 miles. So I probably should have pulled it out and serviced it. It started to develop a couple leaks in the oil cooler area, and I just ignored it and kept adding oil to it. Kept driving it pretty hard. A lot of you guys know I drive this thing 70, 80 miles an hour on the interstate. It'll turn about 5,500 RPM. So it's been tortured. It's been all up and down 95. All the way to up there by Pisser, Niagara Falls, and South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, all those southern states I've traveled around, and it's never failed. I did get a little tight on money and probably put some crappy oil. Actually, it was used oil. It was out of my son's SR motor that we built. It was the break-in oil, and I ended up throwing it in here, and shortly after the motor failed. Don't know if it was an additive in the break-in oil that attacked the seal and swelled it shut like that, but that's what happened. A couple people told me I put the wrong seal in there. I over tightened it, and I don't think it would have gone 68,000 miles if it was not right from the beginning. And like I said, I've been using the late model seals on this motor ever since it was since the 80s, and I've never had an issue with it until now. So we were able to use the block over again. I had to put a new crankshaft in it, a new set of rods. Still has the Berg cylinder heads on it. It's got a K8 cam, and it's got a set of 40 Solex Cadrons, however you say it. I'm not really sure. I did upgrade it to an alternator this time. Still has the 09 distributor in it. I bumped the compression up a little bit this time. And that's about it. We'll go ahead and fire it up. You guys can give it a listen. It doesn't have a muffler on it, so it might sound a little crackly. It's a little snotty. I drove it the other day, and it runs real well. Cold, gotta warm up. She runs good. So there we go, that's the bus. I gotta finish putting it together so I can drive it, paint some bumpers. Gotta repaint the carbon fiber apron there. It's been getting scratched up from putting the battery in and out. Gotta do the door jams and all that good stuff, but I really need to just get back into it and start driving it. It can be a work in progress. Got to see Hans yesterday, that was pretty cool. He dropped his toolbox off here. Gonna be hanging out a little bit. Got a little project coming up we're gonna work on. He's got some projects that he's going to be doing, so we might build him a little garage out in the back there, a little building of his own for his little hobby that he wants to do. And he's going to help me with a little project that I have that will be coming up for some of you Mustang guys. I'll be working on a little surprise. Got a little Prius in here for a little bumper job. Still got the Coyote. I'm thinking about selling the Coyote maybe to fund the next project. And I think it'll be worth it. I got the blue car painted. We can take a walk over here. This video is going to be longer than the night is cold, but I'll take you over here. I got half of it buffed. I ran out of compound. Oh, we got mail, so that's what's going on. Put some carpet in the living room, painted it all up, been working on that a little bit. Got some new neighbors. Let me take you over here and show you the Mustang. Anyway, it's coming along. It's looking really good. Use some Deltron clear on here. Yeah, so that's what's going on with this. I'm going to get these windows tinted so it's not a fishbowl. I had to pull all the old tint off, it failed. But I'm going to get the windows tinted up. I need a high pressure AC line, and this will be ready for daily driving. I'm going to drive this instead of the Coyote. Sell the Coyote and go from there. Still got the lawn business. Haven't really been cutting a lot of grass. Winter time. I broke my shoulder, or ripped the tendon, destroyed the joint, so I got to get a complete shoulder replacement. That'll be coming up. I'm going to try to put that off as long as possible, but don't know how that'll go. So I was in the hospital for 4 days. They were trying to do surgery on it, and I checked myself out being stubborn. And I have one guy I'm subscribed to on YouTube, and he says never believe a doctor, an MRI, just drink water. Don't drink it, sip it, and everything will work out. So I've been going with that. It's not healing really fast, but I've been getting by, so that's what's going on with that. So anyway, let me go ahead and shut this off. We'll have more on that motor. I'll get it all apart probably in the next day or two. We'll lay it all out, and we'll do the assembly process like I usually do in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes after everything gets measured, washed and cleaned, and then it'll look like it's real easy to build a motor. But this is one of the first motors I think I've actually, I think 2110 we went through every step, but normally I don't show clearance in the case because the cases come clearance now for up to an 86 stroke crank if you buy the proper case. So you wouldn't have to do any of that, and this combination would be pretty much snapped together if you had the proper case and you ordered the correct barrel shims when you ordered the parts. We just ordered a little at a time. I think he's just trying to, you know, make it as cheap as possible, which I understand because it's pretty expensive, and it got really out of hand on the 2110. We did it item by item, and the motor ended up $7,800 for this motor here after we bought the 48 IDAs and the 1 3/4 merged exhaust, the full flow oil system. Pretty much everything in that motor is pretty decent. We got a set of CNC wedge port heads on here, wedge port manifolds matched to the cylinder heads, 650 valve spring package, Potter rocker arms. It's a pretty nice piece. After the 78 by 94 build, we're probably going to freshen the 82 by 94 motor up, and then next will be the 2110 is going to come back apart and become a turbo motor. Won't be changing a whole lot on it. The carburetors are going to come off. I don't even know if we're going to open the motor up. The compression ratio will stay right where it's at. It's about 10.5, 9.5 to 1. I've been raising all the compression on my race motors and my street motors just to see what I can get away with. I know on the race stuff I'm never going to have an issue because I run the 118 fuel. My son was looking at this motor and he couldn't believe how clean it was. You know, this motor's these parts are from the 80s also. It's an original Scat Bolts Ford Stroker one-piece billet crank back when they were made in the US. It's got a set of bug pack rods which are obsolete now, with a set of $400 Berg bolts, and this assembly's been really good to me. I had it in a dragster for a while, ran low 9s, and it goes 10 flat in my car, so it's been a really good motor. It's probably time for a new set of piston cylinders, but it's doing good on the leak down. It's just got a little you know, skirt wear on it, and a lot of that's from not having a filter on the motor. But anyway, that's what we're doing. That's what's going on. We'll get all this stuff cleaned up and lay it out, make a package, and assemble it next time on the next video. And thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for commenting. I haven't made a video in a long time. I uploaded that last video, but it doesn't seem like I can get into the video manager section of the of my channel. Don't know if that's changed since I made videos last. If anybody could give me a little direction on that, so I can get in and answer some of the comments. There used to be a video manager section, and it doesn't seem to exist anymore. So the page changed a little bit when I turned the computer back on. A little different look, and still trying to get used to it. So I'll try to upload this video, and as I do more and more videos, I'll get used to the new computer and how to do it and get a process down, and the videos will become more regular. But that's what's going on here. Hope everybody's doing really good, and thanks for watching.